Deep in the waterlands of southern China lies an ancient town called Wuzhen. Wu means black. For 1,300 years, no one has agreed on where the name came from. Some say it was a general's blood. Some say it was a painter's ink. Others say it was simply the reflection at night. But if you come here, you will discover that every answer hides in the same canal. In the final years of the Tang dynasty, General Wu Zhen fought to his death on a stone bridge. His blood flowed into the canal and turned the water dark. The townspeople named their home after him. But strangely, that stone bridge still stands today. And every evening at dusk, someone stands on it, gazing toward the end of the canal. Not the general, a woman. In Wuzhen, there is an old saying: the ones who stand on bridges waiting are always the women who dye cloth. Their husbands left along the canals to trade, sometimes for years, sometimes forever. The wives stayed behind to dye fabric and weave silk, soaking their longing into vats of indigo. Every strip of blue cloth was a letter that could never be sent. That indigo was as deep as ink. And speaking of ink, there was another soul here. The Yuan dynasty painter Wu Zhen spent his life as a hermit in these waterlands. He painted the canals, the stone bridges, the silhouettes beneath the blue cloth. His ink and the women's indigo were the same shade of black. Perhaps the darkness in Wu Zhen's name came not from a general's blood, but from a painter's brush and a woman's dye vat. They merged in the canal and became the same color. Wu Zhen once painted a scene of Wuzhen at night. Dark rooftops reflected in the canal, the whole town submerged in a pool of ink. This is where the third legend comes from. The night reflection gave Wuzhen its name, the Black Town. But if you look closely at the painting, you will notice a bridge. On the bridge stands a figure, waiting for someone, or saying goodbye. The painter never said. Some of them were rewarded. A wooden boat would appear at the end of the canal, a merchant standing at the bow loaded with silk. The woman would run to the water's edge, her hands still stained blue. Their reflections would merge in the canal. On the general's bridge, inside the painter's scroll, through the dyer's long wait. In this one moment, every story became the same story. But many never came back. The canal kept flowing. The blue cloth faded but still hung there. Autumn leaves covered the stone steps. The figure on the bridge in the painter's scroll was perhaps a woman who waited forever. In Wuzhen's canals, what flows is not just water. It is the general's blood, the painter's ink, the woman's tears, and all the longing that was never spoken. In 1896, a boy was born on the east bank of Wuzhen. He grew up sitting by the window, watching blue cloth sway, watching women wait, watching boats come and go on the canal. He did not know he was witnessing the final chapter of a 1,000-year story. His name was Shindahong. The world would come to know him as Mao Dun. Mao Dun left Wuzhen, but Wuzhen never left him. In Shanghai, he wrote Spring Silkworms about the silk women of Wuzhen. He wrote The Shop of the Lin Family about a canal-side store that stood for decades. The general's story, the painter's story, the dye woman's story, Mao Dun wrote them all into his novels. His ink joined Wu Zhen's ink, joined the women's indigo, flowing into the same canal. The Wuzhen Mao Dun wrote about looks almost identical to the one you see today. The bridge where the general died now has a cat sleeping on it in the sun. The canal the painter captured still reflects the same rooftops as 1,000 years ago. The dye workshops remain, the blue cloth still sways. Only now the waiting women have been replaced by art students with easels and travelers with cameras. In 2013, a modern theater rose on the town's west bank. Every autumn, theater companies from around the world perform beside the canals. On the bridge the general once defended, Shakespeare now plays. Along the canals the painter once captured, modern applause rings out. The waiting women's stories have been adapted for the stage. 1,300 years of silence finally became the voice of the world. Yet every morning, before the tourists wake, before the theater lights come on, wuzhen returns to what it has always been. The bridge is still there. The general is gone. The painter is gone. The waiting woman is gone. Mao Dun is gone. But the canal still flows, and the blue cloth still sways. If you listen carefully, hidden in the sound of water are all their stories. They were never separate to begin with. The general's blood, the painter's ink, the woman's indigo, Mao Dun's words, they all flowed into the same canal and became the same color. This is why wuzhen is called wuzhen, not because of one legend, but because of all of them. Water flows under stone bridges, past blue cloth, through every story of waiting and reunion, through every departure and return. 3 legends, 1 name. Water does not forget. Water remembers everything.